Going live. You're live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Parsha Haftorah class. Let's not get my hands out of this thing. Okay, so tonight my husband begins with the Parsha from Mishpatim, and I will come in right behind him, God willing, with the Haftorah. So enjoy the class. Let me start and get that over to him. There we go. Oi! Okay, there we go. You got it, husband.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and just getting the page ready for our class. And, this week's portion is Parsha Mishpatim, the portion that is a continuation of the giving of the Torah. Torah laws, Torah court system, judgment system, all these things are given to us by the Almighty, who taught it to Moses. We have the scriptures in which the various judgments are based, and it deals with all the kinds of different court cases that come up in which there's personal injury or someone damaged someone else's property, and various situations in which a person embarrassed someone else, or a situation in which they did not show the proper respect for someone else, and they unfortunately were abusive, even verbally, to the other person. All these things are dealt with by our Holy Torah, all kinds of cases, unfortunately capital cases, unfortunately cases of attacks upon women, just about everything that we've been hearing about and reading about today. And it's very wonderful and inspiring to actually have the Torah viewpoint, which is our holy law, which we'll be able to put fully into practice when the Mashiach comes. Some laws we can still take to a rabbinical court, but in many cases we cannot today because we don't have the Holy Temple. What does one have to do with the other? When we have the Holy Temple, we have the full judicial system of the Jewish people, including a court of 71 judges. The original Supreme Court of the Jewish people had 71 judges, and the number 71, was Moses himself. And these laws are very merciful in many ways, as we'll see, and they have to be tough where one has to be very tough. What's important is that in last week's portion, Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, gave him that wonderful advice that we learned about last Tuesday night, which was for all the Jewish people, which actually amounted to millions, to be judged by one human being, even if that person is Moses, far too much. And he advised Moses to train and appoint those who would be fitting judges for the Jewish people. They would be under his tutelage and under his administration. Just as today, too, you have a Supreme Court, you have state courts, you have local courts, etc. All these things come originally from our Holy Torah. Much of civil law actually was based on the Torah until we had this crazy change in this country, horrible change in this country, where those who were guilty of even murder, guilty of very severe violent crimes, and very severe damage to someone else's property or stealing, whatever. Now they started this crazy idea of setting people free out in the street to do the same thing again. And with President Trump, we're hoping all this is going to be turned around. But we really appreciate how holy the Torah is and how truthful, because this is God's law. This is not a law that was made by a Congress. It's not made up by a Senate. It's not made up by some university. This is law that's given to us by the Almighty, and that's why that's what these words, Ve'ela HaMishpatim, in addition to the Ten Commandments, in addition to all the other things that you were introduced to already at Mount Sinai and even before Mount Sinai, these are the judgments that you, Moses, must place before the Jewish people. So the expression that is used is tosim lefnehem. You are to place these judgments. You have to teach them God's law in all kinds of situations. What it has to do between man and woman, children, whoever's involved, property, one's livestock, one's crops, one's farm. All the things that can come under various court cases are dealt with in this portion. It's a very, very all-encompassing portion. But as I say, the difference again is that it's not man's idea. This isn't rabbinical law, as we speak about. There is rabbinical law. One of the 613 commandments is to listen to the rabbis. From time to time, they enact some sort of a decree, some sort of an amendment to help the Jewish people keep the Torah. That's called rabbinical law. Rabbinical law is lenient in many cases where there's a doubt involved. We don't have time to go into all this now, but at any rate, we tonight are studying biblical law, the laws from the Torah itself, which the Almighty taught Moses. And he told him in this opening verse there, the Elah Mishpatim, and these are the judgments. And besides the Ten Commandments, and besides what Moses and you, all the Jewish people, heard the Almighty teach you at Mount Sinai, these were also from Sinai, these judgments that deal with all kinds of court cases. So why does it use the expression to simlify place these laws before the Jewish people? You would say, Talamdu, O some, these are the laws you have to teach them. Or Tanagu, these are the laws that you should put into practice. It says place before them. So Rashi gives us a wonderful example. Just as when you're about to eat a wonderful meal, let's say you're going to even a formal meal like a wedding, a bar mitzvah, I always use those examples. It could be just a party. Maybe it's a Hanukkah party too, also, or a Purim meal. We're not so far off from Purim at this point, too. So, would you come? It's, I guess, formal or semi-formal affair. You have a place. Maybe it's an assigned place, and maybe you can sit where you want. There's a plate, fork, and knife, and spoon, napkins, and the various wonderful foods that are all there for you to partake of. Maybe several courses, so the first course might be there already or served shortly after the guests arrive. So it's called a set table. You don't come to, even at home, when you're having your dinner perhaps with your family, so the woman of the house who makes it really a home, she sees to it that the parents, the children, or any guests, or any relatives who are coming, they have a table, place to sit at. They have a plate and a fork and a knife, etc., all that they need. And some foods may be there already. Salt and pepper, if you're going to use it, need that. Ketchup or whatever else a person might want to use. That's what we call a set table, where you know your place is, and you know where your utensils are that you're going to use, and you see the foods that are being offered for you to enjoy. A set table. To sit down, it's very annoying. It must happen to all of us at least once in our lifetime. You sit down, nothing's ready, get this going, get that going. It's not, food isn't even cooked yet, or fully cooked, and I don't know where to sit, and other people are sitting and making all kinds of noise, and then the food is brought hodgepodge, some here, some there, annoying. People don't enjoy such a meal, do they? Shulchan Aruch is the word for a set table. The code of Jewish law, which you and I actually study on Thursday nights, also is called a set table. And it takes that expression from the way Moses was commanded by God to teach the Jewish people. Don't just say what the law is. Oh, you can't work on Shabbos or whatever. Don't eat meat and milk. Don't do this, etc., etc. Go into each law of the Torah that I, the Almighty, taught you. You teach them. Don't just go over it once over lightly. It's a spick and span once over lightly. But teach each law carefully so the people understand exactly what is permitted, what they're supposed to do, what is not permitted, not supposed to do, and with an explanation. Explain the various laws and commandments that I taught you. Teach it with them, and it takes patience. It has to be repeated a number of times for any student. He had to teach Aaron, his brother. He had to teach Aaron's sons. He had to teach the princes of the Jewish people, and had to teach the entire group of the Jewish people as well. A number of repetitions, and each, whether it be his brother or whether it be the huge crowd of the Jewish people listening to a lesson from Moses, he has to be very careful and patient and clear, transparent. You like that word today? Everything has to be transparent. That's the word they use. I don't particularly care for it, but that's what they use. Transparency means I know what you're saying, I know what you mean, and I know why you're saying it and what you hope to accomplish. Transparency. With this president, thank God we have great transparency. With our Holy Torah, thank God we have the greatest transparency from the Almighty Himself. So the portion says, place these laws that I taught you, you're going to teach them now, place it in front of them like a set table. Everything in order, everything in its place, and everything has meaning and purpose. That's how the portion starts. Well, because there's so many laws in this particular portion, as I say the same thing every week, all I could do is take just a few of them to show us the wisdom and beauty of our Holy Torah. All right, let's take a case of personal injury. Okay, this unfortunately happens all the time too. This happens also, we see abuses that gangs or even individuals or harm a policeman whose job is actually to see to it that everyone keeps the law and that everyone is protected. We have these horrible, too many to mention incidents where people harm a policeman, which actually should have an even more severe penalty. But this verse is speaking about two individuals who are having a fight. Don't fight. Don't fight, because fighting and angry, quarreling, unfortunately leads often to blows and injuries. If men, women, doesn't matter, men or women are quarreling, one man struck his fellow be'evan, with a stone. It doesn't have to be a stone, anything, piece of metal, a piece of wood, whatever, it doesn't matter, or a grove, or with their fists. Below yamus, it's an injury. It did not cause death to the other person, but v'nafala mishka. He had to lie and be even what we would call the hospital, bedridden. That's the English expression. V'nafala mishka, he fell to being bedridden. We're not sure if he's even going to live. You should know that we don't find normally a prison system in the Torah. Here, this is an instance where they do lock up this person until it's determined whether the victim's going to live or not. If the victim does not live, this person is guilty of murder. Well, let's say the person does live. Let's learn about what the law is. In Yokum, if the victim who was struck and became bedridden from the blow and the injury, if he will get up, his strength is returned to him, and he can walk outside. He's recovered, thank God. Beniko Hamaka, the one who struck him, will be innocent, not completely innocent, but innocent of the law of murder, because this person, thank God, did recover. Rak Shivto Yitain, Rapo Yirape. There are 5 payments for injuring another person, and the law of the Torah is that even if one injures another inadvertently, they didn't mean to, one is still responsible to pay for the various laws of the injury. So I'm going to go through them one by one, not taking a lot of time, but it's just to show you the sense, like Moses was taught to tell his students, the whole Jewish people. That's my job right now too, to try to explain things as best as I can. There's five payments here. I'm going to summarize them rather quickly if I can. First one is the first thing is to pay the doctor bill. By the way, a doctor who doesn't charge is worthless. You're not supposed. It's interesting. There's many laws about medicine, medical practices. If a doctor doesn't charge, he's not worth anything. You're not supposed to go to such a doctor. What about if the victim says, "Pay me the money for the doctor that would normally go for the hospital, the doctor, surgeon, whatever, medicines, whatever's involved, a cast, all the different things that's involved in healing. Just give me the money and I'll heal myself." No. Torah does not allow that. If you're in a situation where you need medical help, it's a situation you can't fool around with it, you get a good doctor. Even if it has to be paid a lot, whether the person has insurance or whatever. People try to have insurance today, but not everybody does, as we well know. And you make sure that is a doctor who is qualified to take care of your case. That payment has to be paid for the person who struck this victim. Let's take another one, Nezek. Unfortunately, this involved a case. The person did get up, and he recovered to a certain extent, but he can never use his right arm anymore. It was too badly injured, the bone was too badly shattered, or too much damage was done, and he can't use his right arm anymore. There's a payment to compensate this person because now they don't have the same abilities and the same money earning capability as they had before. Before they had both arms, they were doing different kinds of work. Maybe he was a violinist, maybe he was a pianist, whatever. Maybe he was a person who makes jewelry, a craftsman. Whatever his job entailed, it involved needing both arms. Now that this person is incapacitated from certain professions, his earning power is reduced, as we see, injury, personal injury, and damage. There's a payment for that. And the payment is based on the reduction in his earning capability. I'm using modern terms just to help us understand. Another payment, of course, is tsar. The person was caused tremendous pain. Tremendous pain. So not only has to be compensated for his reduction in his earning capacity, not only does the doctor bill or hospital bill have to be paid, but also the pain that this person endured. There's a payment for that as well. It's based in the ancient laws of our holy Talmud, our holy Torah, that what would a person pay to avoid having such pain, such suffering, etc.? What would a person want to be paid for such? Of course, nobody would want to do it. But it has to be some sort of a system in which pain must be recompensated. Today, for the most part, I don't think you have such a thing. There's no question that there's compensation for the injury, compensation for the medical, the fact that the person can no longer do his regular job. These things are there. But for the pain all by itself, I don't think there is such a thing in American law. If someone will tell me different, I'll be glad to learn. Not through. There's 5 of these. We took care of healing, medical bills. We took care of being not able to earn as much for a living. We took care of pain. There's 2 more There's 2 more payments. One payment is boshus, tremendous embarrassment. When he struck the other person in public, it was very humiliating and very, very embarrassing. That I don't think you have in American law either, just for the embarrassment. There's a separate of the 5 payments, separate payment for embarrassment. And the last one, there is something I think we have in American law. I think we call it workman's compensation. Shevis it's called, in which the person has to sit or lie and cannot work at all. His regular profession he can't do anyway. But here he can't do any work because he's in pain and he's an invalid and he can't do any kind of work at all. There's a compensation for that too. Something like it is what they call workman's compensation that many employers have, that because the person can't do their job, so therefore there's a compensation for them to receive certain money in order to help cover their expenses. There's something like that I believe we have in this country. What I'm trying to bring out to you is look how careful God is in giving us laws for a case where a person injured another and actually damaged their body too as well. They went through pain, they went through embarrassment, they went through all these things that we're talking about. And until all these things are taken care of, this person is held, even by the rabbinical court, he is held responsible in order to compensate the person for what was done to them. What's the lesson behind this? First of all, we see the Torah is very fair. We see that it looks all around at all of the aspects of personal injury, and that all of these things have to be covered. Now let's take a case where one person's property damaged another person's property, and we're dealing with animals that you and I aren't so concerned about and thinking about, so I'm going to have to try to adapt it to something that you and I are more familiar with. This is dealing with two oxen, a case in which one ox struck the other. Now, the ox years ago wasn't a pet. You and I, when we think of animals almost exclusively, unless it's a farmer, unless someone who raises chickens are very expensive. The eggs are expensive now, as you know, because of the flu. Mostly we think about animals as pets. Dogs and cats, rabbits, and things of that nature, etc., etc. And this case is, of course, where one person's pet attacks the other person's pet. So this is a case of property injury. A case of property injury. So we're going to use oxen for an example, but we'll switch that to the kind of pets that we're used to today, and we see these things happening. This is a case where you have two oxen. If you've ever seen a bull is a very dangerous animal. And boy, the males of a species often are very aggressive. And here, one ox attacked the other ox. It struck it or it gore it with its horns. What happened? It killed one animal, killed the other person's animal. So what's the law? Was a shurachai. The animal that survived and struck the other should be sold, and divide its value. And also the dead animal, whatever it's worth now for dog meat, maybe it's worth for dog meat or whatever, or may be able to sell it to a non-kosher butcher or something of that nature. That might be able to be done too. So the basic law we learned from this case is, if this is a freaky thing, and it can be so, there's cases, I've heard of them, I've very much been very amazed by them too, and horrified by them. Something like a horse that's been broken. It's been ridden, and it's been used. It was not abused, it was not cruelty, whatever. Sometimes they go cuckoo. A horse can go cuckoo, throw off its rider, or even attack someone for no reason at all. This is an animal that's been, as you see, I guess the expression is broken or trained, and it's normally been used either for farm work or for giving rides, whatever they do with animals today, etc., etc. Sometimes animals go berserk. They go crazy. God forbid, it can mean even the loss of human life as well. Well, let's take an easier case. If two people have dogs, each one has their own pet dog. And the dogs normally are okay for some crazy reason, and this does happen. I had a student that their pet dog, not a stranger's dog, the pet dog, bit the ear off of one of the daughters, one of the girls, the children in the house. Couldn't believe it. for no reason at all, for nothing, berserk. All right, in this case, one pet attacked the other one and killed it. So the law is that the result in loss of value of the animal, let's say it was a nice pedigree animal, the loss of value to the animal because it was killed, which today is most of its value. Some of it could be used, as they say, for dog meat or something like that, whatever they do with animals today. Sometimes they want to simply bury them or whatever. If this happened once, and then this second time the animal attacked another live animal and killed it, and then even up to a third animal, we see that this is a very dangerous animal. What's done is when the animal was not considered so dangerous, the owner was warned. You better keep that animal on a chain. Keep it on a chain. Keep it on, with its the special leather holder, whatever. I can't think of another. I forgot the expression. You'll forgive me. Whatever. It probably comes to me in a minute or so. Do not let it free. Do not let it roam free. The payment, because it was not known to be a dangerous animal, is half of the damages. After 3 times and being warned 3 times you have a dangerous animal and then it did it again, now you have to pay full payment.
Not you, of
What
course.
about one has to pay full payment? If the animal killed a person, man, woman, or child, it has to be put to death. It has to be immediately. There's no second chances for that. If it killed a human person, a human being, then it has to be put to death. So we see the Torah is reasonable here. The animal did freaky things a couple of times, half payment for the injury to another animal. After that, full payment. And of course, what would people normally do? The advice here, you'll enjoy it very much. If you have an ox, for instance, this is like a cow, right? A cow, a bull or a cow that seemed to be dangerous. The Talmud says, you know what the best thing to do with it is? Have it slaughtered. Have it slaughtered, be kosher meat and kosher meal, which people can use. Since it's already shown that it has a freaky way, the best thing to do with it is to slaughter it. We're going to continue with some other laws now. This other one is very pertinent to today. At first, you're going to tell me, what am I talking about? You talk about something I've never heard of, it sounds crazy, whatever. Let's see if you tell me if it sounds crazy. The next case is of a thief, but not just any thief, who quietly goes in, and slips a watch in a jewelry store into their pocket quietly, whatever that was on the counter, whatever. Not this kind of a thief, a much worse thief. This is an individual who's breaking in to someone's home to steal. And they know, if they're caught, that the person in the house will do anything to defend themselves. Breaking and entering, this is called. Breaking and entering. In the Torah case, in the Haftorah, if digging, this person is so wicked that they're digging outside in the yard a tunnel to be able to get into the house. Now, for many, many years, people did not have these fancy linoleum floors, which have, of course, a wooden base under them, or a carpet with a wooden base under that. And that's very hard to get into that house because of the flooring. You'd have a dirt floor, so all you have to do is dig in the backyard, go through underneath the house, and then break into the house through the floor, breaking and entering. It's a very severe case of robbery, not just simply this quiet robbery, which is a terrible sin, and is also, as we'll soon say, I hope I'll remember to take it up too, if a robber is caught, you don't set him free like they let today and everything. You don't say, what was it, $750 and $900 in one city? Such a stupid thing. They let him go as long as the theft isn't more than so much money. Stealing a penny is just as serious in the Torah as stealing $1,000. Just as serious. So this person is cutting and digging into the house. And the person digging into the house is ready to do anything. They're that desperate. They're ready to even kill. And you and I have heard crazy stories of breaking and entering. Person breaking and entering and killing the owner, killing the inhabitants, whatever. You and I have heard of this. And our horrible court system has been letting people like that out on the street. You had that subway case for like a year or so. They tormented the person who was defending not only his own life, but the people in the whole subway car from a lunatic, etc., who was ready to kill people and said he was going to do it. And this former military man who had training, I think he was in the Marines, if I'm not mistaken, they accused him of murder. They accused him of racism, every stupid claim. I don't know if you followed that case, but no, my wife and I was so incredibly upset. In this country, you've got to get a good excuse for self-defense. He wasn't just defending his own life, but actually everybody in the car. Then you heard not so long ago about this horror who set fire to a woman who was sleeping. Nobody stopped him, and nobody put out the fire, and she lost her life in a horrible way. Execution. Once again, people around. Nobody moves. Everybody afraid to do anything. What does our Holy Torah say in a case like this? Somebody's doing something that's clear that they're putting the owner or the inhabitant in danger. A rider in the subway car, wherever it is, train, whatever you want, train, plane, whatever it is. The Torah says, if you see that your life is in danger, get up early and kill that person first. That's what our Holy Torah says. Don't wait for the court to, oh, do you really have to do it? Could you do something else? Oh, you're a racist because you killed this person who's ready to kill you, threatened to kill you. You're a racist. Stupid, right? That's what our judicial system has become. Thank God, with an honest and immoral president we have. Well, common sense? Common sense again? Common sense president? Common sense person? The Torah tells you, if you have good reason to believe it, he's digging in your backyard. He broke through into the house, and you're going to say, hi, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a cup of coffee? Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Of course. You see, this person is so desperate and doing such a dangerous thing, and that person is ready to kill anyone who catches them so they won't be caught. It won't be reported. Not only do you have permission by the Torah, you are commanded, get up early. Get at that person first. It's an expression, get up early and kill that person. You are not responsible. The Torah says you're not responsible. It says, if digging and breaking and entering the thief be found, the hook of a mace, the owner of the house caught him and killed him. Ein lo damim. It's like this person had no blood in them. It's like they were dead to begin with. They're doing an act, threatening another person's life. You not only have permission, you're required to make sure that they cannot harm you, that they cannot hurt you. So this I want to give an example for the United States of America. We're learning Torah law. This is God's law. Doesn't it say in the Ten Commandments, lo sitzach, you shall not murder? There are situations when you're supposed to murder, you're supposed to kill. That person threatens you with your life. It's as though they are dead already. There's no witnesses. There's no way to prove it. Oh, you need proof, this, that, the other thing, etc., etc. Otherwise, we're holding you guilty. Ooh. Let's go back to God's Torah. Huh? Let's go back to the Almighty's Torah, which much of American law was based on, you should know. Biblical law, it's called. Much of the laws of the courts was taken from our Holy Torah. And we have these crazy leftists and these crazy distorted judges, lawyers, judges, etc., politicians, who tell you you have no right to take that person's life, you can't do anything to defend yourself, etc., etc. If you do, it's only if they start running away, then you're not allowed to touch them either. All kinds of laws protect the criminal, not the victim. That's what it has become. We thank God that we have such a wonderful Torah that teaches us what's the right thing to do. The same God who says don't kill says under this circumstances you have to kill and you should kill. Self-defense to save your life. Do you have to go ask a rabbi first? I don't think you don't have time to do that, now do you? We have to know what the law is. That self-defense gives a person the right to take the life of the person who is pursuing them, who is endangering them. Okay, we'll go on a little bit more. Okay, be right with you. Here we are. Kiyava Ishora Ocherim. A person was so nice. Now this does happen. This happens today too. Maybe not with this particular animals, but with animals. Kiyava Ishora Ocherim. A person sent his animals into someone else's field. It's a field that was planted, it has crops, or a vineyard, it has grapes. V'shilach his be'iro, he sent his cattle, uvier b'steyacher, and that animal either trampled and damaged the plants in the field or the garden. How about a garden? No. Meitav, the best sedehu of his field, will make the Carmel Yisholim. This is property damage in which one animal, not on its own, the owner was very careless and either let the animal go into someone else's garden or their field and do damage there. Either it trampled plants or it consumed plants, etc. People with a pet rabbit. You know people with a pet rabbit? By the way, rabbits can get pretty enormous. I always think of them as like this little cute little bunny rabbit, which a lot of them are cute bunny rabbits. Some of them are huge. They're actually quite huge, and they have huge appetites too. So this person has a nice garden with carrots, peppers, cucumbers, all kinds of delicious things, beautiful, wonderful plants, etc. Wonderful things that they have planted. And they let their rabbit get loose, go into the next yard, and have a banquet. What does the Torah say? You must not only pay for this, but if you're going to pay with land, in those days people didn't always have cash. They didn't always have movable objects to pay with, not cash necessarily. If they want to give a portion of land to pay for the damage that was done, it could be thousands of dollars of damage, not from just a little bunny rabbit. Thousands of dollars of damage. They must pay with their best land, take a piece of their best property and use that for payment because that's easiest to sell. And that way the person who suffered the damage will be able to be recompensed for the compensation for the damage that they endured. So we see the Torah says one must be in control of oneself, one must be in control of one's property, one must be in control of one's animals, etc. Person with a car today, person driving a car. They weren't careful and he knocked down somebody's fence, or they weren't careful parking and they smashed up the other person's car. It happens today too. Same thing happens today too. So you're on the way to the insurance company. Sometimes the company says, you have so many claims. that we're not going to pay your claim anymore. We was careless, you weren't careful, and this has happened over and over again. We're not going to pay your claim. Or we'll raise your premium up 10 times as much what it was. You have to go to your bank, take your own good money that you worked hard for. You're going to have to compensate to the damage that you did to somebody else. All these are Torah lessons. These are Torah lessons. Okay. I don't have too much time. Rebbetzin, I'm going to finish off soon, okay? All right. Yeah, I'm going to go just a little bit further. Okay. Here's another case. First of all, it gives me the opportunity to speak about honesty and keeping one's word. Years ago, to test if a person was telling the truth, an oath could be administered to them. Now, you've seen these oaths being taken in court. You've heard of them. You see how worthless they are today. Even people who have had to testify in Congress openly lie, and they're caught lying. And technically, that is also a very special offense, punishable by imprisonment, as a matter of fact. Do you swear to tell the truth, so help you God? It used to be a very awesome, very extremely critical situation to be in. Whether the person was a witness, or whether they're testifying, whether they are guilty or not, whatever, depending on what the situation was, whether they committed or not. Do you honestly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You used to hear that as a kid. It seemed like a very awesome thing, and it used to be an awesome thing. Until, once again, people became more and more lax, further and further away from God, any way of believing in God, further and further away from honesty, further and further away from respect, further and further from any kind of morality, responsibility, character. It's up to you and I, the students of God's holy Torah, to teach people the right way. They don't know. They don't know anymore. I was teaching music in a college, and I happened to be dealing with different kinds of music, and some of the samples was a music appreciation course, was music that was used as a hymn, not attached to any one religion. It wasn't Christian, but it was I would call it a religious hymn that could apply, very generally, not to any one group, et cetera, et cetera. And I asked the students, I said, don't you sing this hymn when you go to church and Sunday? I had all non-Jewish students that I know of. They were all non-Jewish students. Don't you sing this hymn? It's a famous old hymn in church when you go to Sunday. He says, we don't go. Why don't you go? Our parents don't go. And their parents don't go. They don't even go. They don't go for their own religion. They don't go to their own faith. So how do you go? How do you use an example from religious music with people who are totally not religious? They have no training, no values, no right and wrong. I sat there just absolutely astounded. These are Christians, not Jews. Jewish people, we have to teach them what Judaism is. We have to take them by the hand and bring them into a synagogue, which we can and should do. Beautiful thing. These people don't do anything but sleep late on Sunday. That's how they observe their Sabbath. All right. At any rate, our job is to teach the right way. When we speak about an oath, not just an oath, I swear. If you simply say, I'm going to do this tomorrow, we say, with God's help, or say, I'm not making any promise. No, with a promise, I'm going to pick you up tomorrow and I'm going to bring you to the luncheon. You say, without a promise, without a vow, because a Jew knows that they have to keep their word. When they swear in court, in the Jewish court, that's frightening. You know what an oath really is? Look at the words. The person says, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. When we make a Torah oath, We're calling God as our witness that we are telling the truth. How dare we? How dare we use God's name, use God in any way to support our telling the truth that people should believe us? That was avoided even when we had the Holy Temple, even when we had our rabbinical courts that were fully equipped and qualified to handle all cases, including capital cases as well. A person will be frightened. What's this third of the 10 Commandments? I'm the Lord your God, number one. You shall not have before me any false gods. Don't bear the name of God falsely. Isn't that so? Isn't that the third commandment? The non-Jews know that too. But today, to swear, to promise, to vow, to break one's word all the way through. Remember how many times the former President Biden, I'm ashamed to even call him a president, on video over and over again, he says, I'm not going to pardon my son, I'm not going to pardon my son, I'm not going to pardon my son. He pardoned him anyway. This is a person that we knew was terribly dishonest. But when you are the top leader in a country and the whole country and the whole world looks to you, let's see if this person is trustworthy. Is this person honest? Is this person moral? He proved his dishonesty, his immorality, his failure to keep the truth and keep his promises. So I gave this as an introduction to show you that if a person would have to swear in the rabbinical court, in those cases where it could be done, it was avoided if possible. And sometimes a person said, I'll pay the difference anyway. I don't want to make the oath, even though they're telling the truth. So here's a case for you. You owe me $100. The guy says, oh no, I only owe you 50. No, you owe me 100. No, I only owe you 50. So this person is admitting part of the claim. Who's telling the truth? Is a person who claims 100, is he telling the truth? Is the person who says 50 telling the truth? We don't know. We don't have witnesses. If we had witnesses to the loan, he does admit, he admits he did borrow, but not the full amount. So the law is that the person who only admits part must make an oath in court. Frightening thing. This is where biblical law is. He must swear or else pay up. And he has to hold a Torah scroll. A Torah scroll. Can you imagine lying? Holding the Torah scroll, it says right in it, do not steal, do not lie. In order to be free of paying the other $50. What does this show us? It shows us, at least at that time, years ago, and some people today too, would be frightened by the idea of calling God as their witness that they're telling the truth, that they would certainly be sure to make sure that they are telling the truth and, of course, pay the $50 that they do admit. What if they say they deny the whole thing? I didn't borrow a penny from you. The original Torah law is you let the whole case go. What? $50 you make him swear, the $100 let him go? There is a rabbinical oath that is admitted, but we're not talking about that right now. Here's the psychology behind it. When someone lends another money, helping them out at their time of need. Yes, it's a loan. It's not a gift. It's a loan. But meanwhile, they're helping them out to help them get on their feet. Normally, they would not have the nerve to deny it and say it's a lie. I didn't borrow a penny. So if that person, according to biblical law, says I did not make the loan, we can't imagine that this person would be so ungrateful to lie and say I don't owe a penny. What about the $50 guy? You owe me $100. No, it's only 50. The Torah looks into the psychology here. You see, our holy Torah, by God, has great, great inner wisdom. Why does he admit 50? Why doesn't he say I don't owe anything? He really did borrow 100. He hasn't got the money now. So he figures, I'll admit 50, and later on, sometime, some year, I'll pay back the other. He hasn't the nerve to deny and say, no, I don't owe you a penny. That would be a terrible, blatant show of ingratitude. Here he helped him out with $100. And Isaac concluded, no, I can't do that. What I'll do is I'll admit part of the money, $50, and later on, when I get the dough together, I'll pay the rest of it. What does the Torah do? This person at least still has some morality, some justice to him, and we make him swear. Okay, we know you'd like to pay the full 100. You're holding back because you don't have the cash now. Now you come and swear by God that you only owe 50. Of course, forget it. Okay, forget it. I'll pay the other 50. So the Torah looks deeply, very deeply into the psychology of a person, why they say one thing or another thing, etc., etc. And the Torah isn't interested in bashing and hurting and punishing. What we really want to do is get the person to do the right thing in the end. Do the right thing. I have to let Rabbi Siniska continue, and we thank you for joining us. And this portion has many, many wonderful cases of justice for not only you and I to learn, but for not only all our people to learn, but for the United States of America to learn once again what is just, what is honest, and what is legal. Thank you.
Yes, you're correct, Rabbi. Although I'm not really, I don't like to hear. I like only pleasantness.
Yeah, this portion happens to deal. Except at the end, maybe I'll just say at the very end of the portion, it gives us details of the giving of the Torah that weren't in last week's portion. So it ends up on the up end.
Thank God, thank God, huh? Okay, let's do this. Okay, let me grab the camera. Oh, up we go. Welcome everybody to part 2 of Parsha Haftorah night. Hope you all had a good week up to now, and will continue to have only goodness. May God create and establish permanent only goodness for us all. Amen, Kenya's son. Anyway, it's interesting because Mishpatim, the word itself, talks about biblical law and judgment and things on that level. And I thought to myself, winding the clock way back, how when I first, just before I came to the end of self, in order to find Almighty God, I sat down and I said, you know what? I don't know what's right and wrong. I mean, I can guess or I can say what I feel like, but knowing when we know what is right and wrong, according to what Hashem says, what does that do? That puts us in the right direction and helps us to gain merit instead of discipline, which we were talking about last night. And Jennifer, thank you and welcome. So, what I'm trying to say, let me see if I can get around these. They put all kind of stuff there to block. There you go. The point is that God gave us laws and judgments and everything, that if we do His way and not try to guess on our own or see what we feel, then by doing what's right, what's God's way is what's right, we're gonna have a much better quality of life, because He created this world. He said, let there be light, and there was light. And from that point on, everything is His creation as well. I was sharing with someone today that, it was I went to drop off some papers in the chiropractor's office, and I told, very nice lady, I told her, I said, Ein od milvado. What does that mean? It means there is nothing but the Almighty. Not a leaf falls from a tree without His permission. And therefore, as He created this world and everything in it, the best we could do for ourselves is learning how to live in His world His way. And it brings a lot of pleasantness. So as I was saying, at that time of my life, which is like 30 years ago, I would sit there and say, you know what? My way doesn't function. Let me see what is God's way. And I came to the end of self, which in Hebrew is called Mesiras Nefesh, selflessness. And I turned wholeheartedly in repentance, teshuvah, to the Almighty, surrendered to Him, and asked Him to help me learn His ways and live by them. It was the best thing I ever did in my entire life. And by doing that, I then had a better quality of life from that point on, and every day and every month and every year it gets better and better. So here's the point. Mishpatim, which are judgments, laws, were made by God to steer us in the right direction. And by learning them and living by them, we gain reward. What does it say in Leviticus 26:1? If you will do my commandments and my statutes, and then starts about 13, 14 verses of blessing. But for those who think they know better than God, oh my goodness, then comes about 13, 14 verses later for people who don't want to do God's Torah. Then it talks about 98 curses. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. But a person should choose good. They don't have to choose evil. That's what comes automatically when a person is not choosing good. And so this whole Parsha and Haftorah of this week are talking about the various, and my husband taught a lot on that, the various laws and their consequences when they're not done correctly. Now I have two Chumashim here, which are the Parshas and the Haftorahs. This one is from the Rebbe, and I wanted to do a little reading on the Rebbe's one, his commentary. I'm going to leave the scriptures for you guys to read after class. That would be Jeremiah chapter 34, verses 8 through 12, chapter 33, verses 25 and 26. And so, let's go to the commentary. The Haftorah mentions the laws of the release of the Hebrew slaves when they left Egypt, which were introduced in this Parsha. The Haftorah opens by recalling the proclamation of King Sidkiyahu that all Hebrew slaves would be freed. The prophet Yirmiyahu, or Jeremiah, then laments or feels bad about that. After initial acceptance of the decree, the people soon began to ignore it. Chapter 34, verses 8 through 11. Jeremiah or Yirmiyahu recalls how the identical sequence of events occurred after Sinai, chapter 12, verse 16. Or is that verses 12 through 16? Could be. I don't see a chapter here. Yeah, it must be chapter 34. verses 12 through 16. God then proclaims his punishment that he will declare freedom from protecting the Jewish people and that Jerusalem will be destroyed. Verses 17 through 22. In order to conclude on a positive note, the Haftorah cites two verses from chapter 33 of Jeremiah in which God Almighty swears never to eliminate the Jewish people completely. Verse 14, but your fathers did not listen to the Creator. At first glance, this verse appears to refer to the Jewish ancestors in Egypt, mentioned in the previous verse. However, being that we read below how a failure to release slaves provoked the Babylonian exile in verse 21, and it follows that those who were redeemed from Egypt must have released their slaves. The fathers of our verse therefore refer to the immediate ancestors of Jeremiah's audience. That's the Luketi Sichas of the Rebbe, volume 16, page 253. Okay, that's how that finishes. Now we're going to a very small portion of the Art Scroll Chumash, because it was a very sweet little part of the commentary that I wanted to share in this class tonight. Bless Hashem, O my soul. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So, sealing a old new covenant with Almighty God by cutting animals in pieces like calves and walking through the parts, which is what Abraham Avinu did to do in his first covenant with the Almighty. Surely this offered the possibility that God Almighty might accept the repentance of the nation and spare them of the decree of destruction that it had been Jeremiah's unhappy duty to predict. As long as the laws of nature remain in effect, God Almighty will not break his covenant with Israel. Israel may richly deserve, God forbid, its punishment and exile, but it remains God's nation. The Davidic dynasty, which God had promised King David he would be king over Israel forever in the scriptures, and he will be coming back, according to Rashi, in the resurrection of the dead to be Mashiach, and will yet be the source of leadership, who will rule and restore the nation to its ancient and future glory. And that's what I wanted to share from this commentary of the Art Scroll. And so, even though a lot of studying of the laws, Mishpatim, are not pleasant to study, and they're not the most happy, joyous, and peaceful things in the Torah, there are definitely things we need to know and learn. And a lot of those things I do not verbalize or read out loud because words create, according to the book of Proverbs, the power of life and death is in the tongue. And so, good things, yes, we want to verbalize for sure. But anything that is not pleasant, we want to know about it, but not verbalize it. That's my opinion there. Anyway, We appreciate that you all came into the class tonight. We've been on air an hour and 4 minutes, is it? Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow night. I will be back alone with Almighty God. My husband comes back on Thursday with me, and we will be teaching tomorrow night. I don't know what yet, but Almighty God will reveal to me. I always pray and ask Him what He wants me to teach. And so, I hope to see you in the class, same time, same station. Eastern Standard Time will be 8:30. New York, I call it New York time. And God willing, we'll be here to teach another Torah class. We wish you many goodness, blessings, only goodness. Walk around all day long saying, verbalizing, only goodness, and see what happens. Sei gebencht, be gesund. Good to see you again, everyone. Shalom, shalom. There we go, Husby.
Yeah.